Hey there, Internet people, and welcome back to Green Wing Gaming. It's Monday, so it means we're back at it with another hobby discussion video. And today, I thought we'd continue on with the theme of info for beginners. I thought I'd start off with a few tips for people just getting started in the hobby. You know, things that I wish I had known, that I wish someone had told me when I was just getting started, to make things a little easier, because as much as I love Warhammer, as much as I love miniature wargaming, it's not always the most intuitive thing in the world. Now, for you veteran players out there, I'm sure a lot of this stuff is going to seem really obvious and stuff you've known for a while. But it's always nice to have a refresher course, and if you really do know everything I'm about to say, well, congratulations, you're a smarty pants. Always good to be reminded of that on the internet, right? Perfect. But before we get into all of that, I would like to remind you guys that I am just getting started on YouTube. I am just beginning this journey, and so if you guys could maybe take the time to drop this video a like, maybe consider subscribing, I would really appreciate it. We must praise Algorithmo. But with all that self-promo out of the way, let's just get into it. Okay, so let's jump right into tip number 1. The simplest thing you need to remember when you're getting started in Warhammer is pace yourself. Warhammer is huge. It has an insane amount of lore. It has, what, almost 30 factions, maybe more? All of whom have a bunch of really prominent characters, all of whom have really intricate backstories. I've been involved in Warhammer for over 20 years now. I still don't know everything. I almost said I don't know anything, and there's people who would agree with that. But no, I still don't know everything. I probably don't even know half the lore of Warhammer after 2 decades of studying it. So pace yourself. I definitely remember when I got started, I wanted to try to learn everything. I wanted to study every tome. I wanted to look in every nook and cranny. But Warhammer's just too big for that. If you try to understand everything all at once, you're gonna give yourself a nosebleed. Just accept that there are gonna be things you don't know, and you'll learn them eventually. So yeah, pace yourself when it comes to the lore, when it comes to building your armies. Your army is not gonna be done in a week. Unless you have just insane amounts of resources, unless Elon Musk is literally watching this video and is planning to just buy his army and be ready to play tomorrow, you're not going to get this done in a week or 2. This is going to be a marathon, not a sprint. So pace yourself. You're going to be at this for a while, hopefully. I hope we managed to make you feel welcome enough to stick with it for that long. So that's tip number 1. Tip number 2, be prepared to build and paint a lot of models. Like a lot. This sounds super obvious, and maybe it is, but you'd be amazed how many people get started in this hobby not really understanding what it takes to build a fully playable army. You know, even for relatively elite armies like the Custodes, or more elite builds of Space Marines, you can still be talking about putting 30 or 40 models on the table, depending on how you build your list. And it's a lot more than people realize. You know, after the first time you trudge through a 10-man squad, and you realize how much effort that took you, you're going to start to realize how much effort it really is going to be to build your army, and the only way to make that an enjoyable experience is if you go in with your eyes wide open, that you're engaged in an undertaking. A very expensive undertaking for expensive grown-up toy soldiers. I suddenly feel like I'm not doing a great job of selling this hobby. I promise it's lots of fun. It is, once you get there. It is a lot of fun. As for the painting part, I know a lot of people are comfortable putting just bare gray plastic on the table. I would recommend try your best not to. I know it's tempting to just say screw it and put the bare unpainted plastic on the table, but there really is a whole other layer to this game when you're playing with a fully painted army. There is a level of satisfaction I have knowing that I put nothing but painted minis on the table. Not once have I ever played gray plastic And I'm really happy about it. It really helps me get more invested in the game. It helps me have more fun with it. And yeah, maybe I'm a purist, but I think it's a good idea. But anyways, that's tip number 2. Tip number 3, budget. And I know that sounds like just an extension of the first 2 tips. It needs to be its own separate thing. Budget. Watch your money, because as I've said in a previous video, Warhammer be expensive, and it's not getting any cheaper anytime soon. So you need to watch how much money you're spending on this. A really solid tip for regulating how much time and money you're spending on things, I've always found it really helpful to just say, I'm not buying any more minis until I've painted the ones I already have. It sounds like super generic advice, but it really does help you out. It will help you keep up with your painting, first of all, but it'll also help you stop from blowing your entire paycheck on Warhammer. There are definitely some people I know who, by the time their paycheck comes around, it's a bill because they've just bought everything that Games Workshop has to offer them. That can be a lot of fun. It can also put you in a position where you don't have time to play Warhammer because you're too busy worrying about your rent and groceries. So budget yourself. Trust me, this hobby is fun. It's not going to become your whole life. Or at least I don't think it should. And I say that as someone YouTubing about Warhammer. So, yeah. Next bit of advice is pretty much just a throwback to the last video I did. Really try to focus down on one faction. Did a whole video talking about why you should do that, why it's a good idea. But just to really emphasize it here, trying to spread your efforts across multiple factions, you're going to wear yourself out. You're going to spend a lot of time, a lot of effort, focusing on a bunch of different things and have not much to show for it when you're done. You'll have cool minis, but you're not going to have anything you can actually put on the tabletop to play. And then it's going to start to really burn you out. And I, for one, would like to see you guys stick in this hobby for as long as possible, because I'm really glad you're here, even though I haven't met you. I'm glad you were involved in this hobby. I'm glad that you're here to play and enjoy it, to share this wonderful little universe we've all discovered. So I want you to stick around for as long as possible, alright? And then this last one, probably the most obvious tip of them all. This is becomes more relevant the longer you're in this hobby. If my veteran players have stuck it into this video for this long, first of all, I appreciate you. But also, this is the one that the veteran players probably need to remember the most. The final big tip for success in Warhammer. Don't be a dick. You're gonna lose some games, particularly if you're just starting out and you've never played the game before. You're probably gonna lose some games. That's just the way it goes. It's a dice game. Sometimes the dice aren't gonna be on your side. It sucks, but nobody likes a person who immediately starts throwing a temper tantrum about it. You're not gonna have many people left to play with if every time you lose a game, oh, that was stupid, it shouldn't have gone that way, or if the moment you lose a game, it starts becoming around, oh, Games Workshop needs to rebalance my faction, it's too weak. Yeah, maybe your faction is weak. That's entirely possible. Maybe they are. Warhammer has never been a perfectly balanced game. I would argue it's never gonna be a perfectly balanced game. That's not what we showed up for. We showed up for the cool-looking minis with a wacky story set in a sci-fi universe. That's what we're here for. If you want perfect game balance, go play chess. Yeah, so your faction might not always be the strongest. The dice might not always roll your way. It's important to stay positive, even when that's true. I know it's hard, believe me, I am not a monk. I have my days where I definitely get annoyed with my dice rolls. But you gotta try and keep it together, because this is a community, man. This is a community, and the more unpleasant you are to play with, the less you're gonna find you have access to that community. People will leave if you get unpleasant enough. And the ultimate iteration of this, again, looking at you veteran players, that whole don't be a dick thing keeps on applying even after you're not a newbie anymore. Even after you know everything. There are going to be people who don't know as much as you. To be perfectly honest, there's going to be people playing this hobby that aren't as smart as you. I have definitely had this issue where I play with someone who is a great person, but maybe isn't firing on all cylinders, at least not that day. And it can get a little frustrating having to remind them of the basic rules over and over again. Patience is a virtue, particularly in Warhammer. Literally everything else I've been saying into this has been a testament to patience. It's going to be the thing you need the most, other than, money. So yeah, just try your best to be nice to each other, guys. It's going to make your whole gaming experience a lot better. But anyways, obvious as they may have been, those were my tips for beginners and even one for the veterans out there. I hope you guys got something out of this. I know I sure did. I may have given myself a minor existential crisis during this video, but that's okay. If you liked it, again, maybe hit the like, maybe hit the subscribe. Self-promotion things. Hey, praise the algorithm. And other than that, I'd love to hear your thoughts down in the comment below. Maybe share an example of people who didn't follow these tips and hype me up. Veteran players, let the newbies know how right I am. But other than that, I hope to see you guys in videos in the future. I would love to see you guys down in the comments. I look forward to talking to you guys some more. But in the meantime, happy wargaming.
Onward to glory!